17 years, you said.
17 years old.
Wow. Was that even legal to go in a ring and perform?
Oh, technically no, because you needed a wrestler's license then. And I wrestled it under my brother's name.
You were talking about the car accident you got into when you were young.
It's myself and two other guys. I wake up and I just see Geza. He's got his hands on the wheel and he's just
You tear down the building, put it back, and build the company, and it's called TNA now.
In the boardroom, I wrote right on the board, TNA.
You brought Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling back into life.
It's daunting to start from, even with Impact TNA, we weren't starting from nothing.
But there
Maple
was
something, nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, so it's just like the name.
Have you made any wrong decision in your life?
I spend half my day, doing my job, and then the other half of the day fixing the mistakes that I made.
ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਜੀ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ। ਮੈਂ ਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਇੰਟਰਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਰੈਸਲਰ ਭੁਪਿੰਦਰ ਗੁੱਜਰ। ਤੇ ਦੋਸਤੋ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਜੋ ਮੇਰੇ ਗੈਸਟ ਨੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਖਾਸ ਨੇ, ਮੇਰੇ ਮੈਂਟੋਰ, ਮੇਰੇ ਕੋਚ ਵੀ ਨੇ। ਤੇ ਕੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ, ਇਹ ਇਸ ਟਾਈਮ ਰਨ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਮੇਪਲ ਲੀਫ ਪ੍ਰੋ ਰੈਸਲਿੰਗ ਐਂਡ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਟ ਨੇ, ਓਨਰ ਨੇ, ਫੋਰਮਰ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਟ ਆਫ TNA। ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ, ਹੋਰ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਹੋਣ ਵਾਲੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਇਹ ਆਏ ਨੇ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ। ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ the one and only scottd'amore. Scott, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for making this happen. Means a lot. I know you are super busy, but it really means a lot to me taking your time out of your busy schedule.
My pleasure. Anytime for you, Bhupinder.
Thank you again.
Those were all nice things you said, right?
Yeah.
I'll have somebody check it later.
We only talk about good things. Don't worry. How's life going on? How's your day going on?
Good. Look, I'm very blessed, right? On my worst of days, it's still better than a lot of people have to deal with. So you keep that in mind when things aren't quite going your way with something here or there. You always think there's people that are dealing with so much worse. So people like us, we're very lucky, right? Healthy. Maybe you're a little more healthy than me, but we're both healthy. You're younger than me, but we both still have some youth. And, life is good. It's a sunny day.
You look great. You look young. And as I always talk about with my friends, I moved here like 7 or 8 years ago. You didn't change. You look same.
Well, King Kong Bundy told me years ago, the secret to looking good when you're old is looking bad when you're young. And you go, hey, you're halfway there.
Okay. Now I have less chances to look good when I'm getting
That's
old.
right. You hit it. Got way too good looking too early.
Oh, thanks. We know about you as a promoter, as a president of Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. We know scottd'amore as a former president of TNA, a builder, a businessman. But today, I'm going to talk about, I really want to know scottd'amore as a wrestler, or even before wrestling. I know you told me that your parents moved here, your father moved here as an immigrant. Mm-hmm. He worked hard in construction job and then built his own company. During that hardship and during that period of time, how scottd'amore got into professional wrestling?
Well, I mean, my father was older. Like, my father was 46 when I was born. So he had kind of already made his roots. He immigrated here from Italy at 20 years old and, came here and started. And I mean, you've experienced, a lot of people who, go through that experience of immigration, which is exciting and getting someplace new, but very scary, right?
It is.
Now make it 1948. There's not only is there no computers, there's no cell phones. Like, even a phone is a luxury. It's writing long letters. I just would hear the stories about my father waiting because once every few weeks or once a month, he had enough money to call home for a couple minutes just to hear his mother's voice, and those type of things. And that's why I say my worst days are better than what so many other people deal with day to day. Because my father, my nono, my uncle all came here together, leaving my aunts and my nonna, my grandmother, back in Italy, mm-hmm. and then had to save up enough money to bring them here. And all they could do was whatever work was available to them, whoever was willing to give them an opportunity. And at a time, people didn't really like Italians over here in some ways. So it was a tough go for him, but he built, a life here. And, he used to always say that, his goal was to make sure that his kids didn't have to go through the hardships he did, right? Like
Right.
trying to find out where you're going to eat, what, and things like that. I mean, he certainly accomplished that because he built a very successful life here, coming here with a sixth grade education and a little suitcase that we would say looks more like a briefcase. It had, I think it had a second pair of pants, 3 shirts, and a few pairs of underwear and socks. That's it. That's what he owned when he came here.
This is so hard moving here because I personally can relate. Like when I moved here, thank God I find you, I find some other people, especially pro wrestling, which helped me a lot to kind of settle down here. But it was scary. And for them back in like 40s, it was definitely more hard as compared to now because we have like social media and everything, talk to our parents whenever we want. Back then it was hard. But Scott, I want to ask you like how you fell into professional wrestling.
Well, I have an older brother, and the guy ended up coaching him in baseball and hockey. His name was Doug Chevalier. He was known as the Canadian Destroyer. And I was, a kid, 11, 12 years old, just fascinated with wrestling. And when I found out that my brother's coach used to be a wrestler, I was just enthralled with him, right? Like if he was coaching first base, I wanted to go over on that side of the field just to stand around because, maybe one day he'll say hello to me. Like in my brain, he's going to look over and go, oh, who's this? I need to make this person a wrestler, right? Like,
Right.
how a kid's brain works.
Right.
And, that's how I first met him when I was 16 years old. Thank God there was no caller ID because he was starting to train wrestlers again, and he had a phone number that was in like a newspaper.
Okay.
And I dialed the phone number, and as soon as he answered, I hung up.
Okay.
And then I was like, oh, well, that was dumb. Why did I hang up? I just got scared, right? So okay, I'm not going to hang up again. Then I dialed the number, and I hung up when he answered.
Okay.
Because I was just scared. And then I was like, okay, you can't hang up. You got to call the number. You got to talk. And, I called again, and he answered, and he was kind of a little perturbed because people could, and I'm like, he's like, hello. And I'm like, hi, Doug. And he's like, yeah, who's this? I go, this is Kevin's brother, Scott, Kevin DeMore's brother, Scott. And he's like, hey, what's going on? What's up? I was like, oh, I want to be a wrestler. And that's sort of how it started. He said, well, we train on whatever night it was, Tuesday nights here, come by and, we'll talk there.
And that was in Windsor, right?
Yeah, that was in Windsor. Yep. That would have been 1990 maybe. Yeah.
Oh.
Scary.
Long time ago.
A long time ago.
So was that wrestling a thing in your family? Your parents used to watch, your nana used to watch, or it's just...
My first real memories of wrestling is my grandfather, my mother's father. Like when I was 8 years old, he ended up passing away. But before that, those last year or two, he was in and out of the hospital a lot. And when you're a little kid, hospitals are scary. And I'd go in to see him, and usually I think it was usually Saturdays. And we were always there Saturdays, and they had the little TV, and the TVs then were like just these little tiny TVs,
Black and white.
But when I would go see him, he'd have wrestling on, so we would watch wrestling together, and it was kind of like our thing, I guess, a little bit when I visited. It made the hospital a little less scary. Then we would get out of the hospital, we started watching it at the house, and that's really my first experience. And it was, when he passed away, I didn't really watch wrestling again because that was our thing until the rock and wrestling boom, 1984 comes. It's only a couple of years later. And,
Right.
You've got Cyndi Lauper and Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper and all this stuff. And, just when wrestling started that big boom period. And as a kid, I just got sucked up into the larger than life characters and the spectacle of it all.
How long you kind of trained for before going out and trying your luck in professional wrestling?
I took a while because I was young, and I don't think I was maturity wise ready to do it. So I probably wasted a good year of training and not really getting anything done. And then I made my debut when I was 17 years old. Still, it was 6 days before my high school prom, and
17 years, you said.
17 years old.
Wow. Yeah. Was that even legal to go in a ring and perform?
Oh, technically, no, because you needed a wrestler's license then, right? A wrestling license.
Okay.
And you had to be 18. So for the first year that I wrestled it under my brother's name.
Wow.
Yeah. I I think I just admitted to committing a crime here. So last statute of limitations, it's got to be expired. But yeah, no, I wrestled under. I got the license under Kevin D'Amore, and I wrestled then, and I was still in high school. So I kind of like went back, had my senior year of high school, and played football. Then when football season was over, I started traveling a little bit, like Michigan, Ohio, and that because there wasn't a lot of wrestling around Ontario at the time. So meeting some of the people in Detroit and that, and training with them, they'd come over here to train because we had a ring, and at the time, nobody in Detroit really had a ring that was available for anybody to train in. So some of the more experienced Americans would come over. We got to learn from guys like Irish Mickey Doyle and Denny Cass, and then Lima, Ohio was 2 hours away, and Al Snow had a really good gym there. I got to wrestle Al and go down there and train at his facility. It was a pretty cool facility, and just that, and then just get out there and start wrestling. I missed my senior high school English exam to go wrestle the Steiner brothers for the WWF.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that was 1993. I was 18 years old. I mean, that was a cool experience, and just kind of just networking, getting to know people, talking to them, and just trying to establish those relationships.
Was your parents aware that you missed your English exam for wrestling?
I don't know. I mean, I did write it. I
Okay.
had a super cool teacher. His name was Mr. Huckle. English teachers a lot of times are a little different.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was the type of teacher. Oh well, if the assignment's due, but if you're not emotionally in the place to do it right now, just like here's a book. It's an extension book. You just tell me when you're gonna get it in because you need to do these things when the moment hits. So I went to him and I was kind of like, hey, sir, look, I have a real problem. He's like, oh, what's that? And
Mm-hmm.
he's like, well, I go, I've been trying to do this wrestling. He goes, oh, yes, yes. And I'm like, oh, well, I got this opportunity to go wrestle for the day. He's like, oh, that's wonderful. That's amazing. Well, what's the problem? I go, well, it's, June 14th. And he goes, what's the problem with that? I go, well, that's our exam, sir. And he goes, oh, well, then I guess you can't write the exam that day. And I was like, I'll write it early before I go, before anyone else. He goes, no, 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 go have fun, experience, enjoy it all. And then when you come back, you can write the exam, like no problem. So he was really cool about it. And he was,
He's a good teacher.
yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why probably I got into university, right, was, you need all kinds of teachers. You need some that are hard on you,
Yeah.
and you need some that are the ones that really like pick you up when you're feeling down, right? So
Right, right.
that's something I've learned over my coaching and teaching career is,
Um,
sometimes yelling works.
yep.
Sometimes,
Sometimes.
you need to put your arm around a person and be like, like you're doing okay, like you're gonna be fine, like, stay with it. So you try to balance it. Maybe I yell a little too much and don't hug enough, but
No, you were pretty good with that.
So-
you know when to hug and when to yell. I mean, in a good way.
Yeah.
But you're pretty good with that.
yeah, I try to look to me. Like sometimes, I try not to yell all the time, but the excitement, and sometimes you're like, hey, you need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But I think as long as my approach, at least that I learned over the years and from some really good coaches, is if your athletes know that you care about them
Mm-hmm.
and you want them to do good, then they know when you are giving them hell, when you're giving it to them, you're giving it to make them better, right? And don't be demeaning, right? Like don't be saying, hey, you stupid, you're worthless, like those type of things. Maybe I did a little of that when I was younger, but even when you're yelling, it's got to be like, come on, you can do this, like get off your ass, like come on, like, getting them to dig deeper inside in those times when you want to quit. You want to be the person as their coach, like pushing them just a little more forward.
Definitely. Scott, what was the biggest break you got back then when you feel like, oh, now I can do full-time professional wrestling or I can make money out of it?
I don't know if there was one break, right? Like I was 18 years old when I got to go wrestle for WWF, and then a few weeks later I got to go down and wrestle for WCW,
Mm-hmm.
and then that kind of became an ongoing thing where I would go down to WCW, which was mainly in and around Atlanta, Georgia, and get to wrestle and get to be around people, right? So my thing was reasonably early on.
Mm-hmm.
I think I realized, I love this, but like back then, like wrestling was the land of giants.
Hmm.
So I'm looking around, I'm going, okay, like there's a lot of people that are 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", 6'5",
Big.
big guys. And, like maybe I won't make it at this. So what I started doing when I was very young, like 18, 19 years old,
Mm-hmm.
at those WCW shows, I went when I got to know the guy who was like sort of my boss at the time, Jody Hamilton, who'd been a big star as the Masked Assassin. I just kind of like stood near where he was sitting and doing his work. And eventually he's like, "Do you want to pull up a chair?" So I sat next to him and I just, I got to ask questions. And I just did that with anybody, whether that was him, whether it was Chief Jay Strongbow with WWE, like, or WWF at the time, I guess. Um, just trying to pick people's brains. When we used to say wrestlers learn more in the car rides than they do in the ring. Because when you're in those cars, like if you've got like, if I'm traveling with Mickey Doyle or I'm traveling with King Kong Bundy or I'm traveling with Don Bronco or any of these guys that have been there and done the things you want to do, like I don't know how you don't, ask them all the questions you can think of, right? Because they've done what you want to do.
Right.
So like you can learn so much from them, and Arn Anderson and just so many people like that, and just Sabu, and just tried to like learn as much as I could, keep trying to get better as a wrestler, but also in the back of my mind kind of knowing like if it's not wrestling, like there's something I can do in wrestling. And I wasn't 100% sure what that would be, but I knew if it wasn't in the ring, if that didn't pan out, there's something that I can do to contribute to this business.
Yeah, I think that's a great way. You were true to yourself. You know what to expect and which directions to go. And I think on the right time, you made a right decision, and that's really played good in your career. But you were talking about the car ride, and I remember you were talking other day about an car accident you got into when you were young. So what was that story about? You
Oh
remember?
boy, there's a few of them. So was this the one when we
The,
flipped the car?
flip the car, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's myself and two other guys, Geza Coleman, who was a wrestler and a UFC fighter, and Dave Dalton.
Mm-hmm.
We were driving from up here from Canada. Like they came like farther down. Like Geza was in Kitchener, Dave was in Ottawa. So they had quite a drive just to get here. We were driving down to Atlanta for WCW. And this is why I say when you're driving long distances,
Mm-hmm.
there needs to be the driver and one other person awake. So, and shame on me. I was young. I was in the passenger seat. Geza was driving. Dave was sleeping in the back. And Geza just kept saying, take a nap. Like, I'm fine. Like, don't worry about it. Take a nap. If I get tired, I'll wake you up. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, I need to stay up with you.
Mm-hmm.
He convinced me to go to sleep, and then he promptly went to sleep himself.
Oh,
So I wake up and I just see Geza. He's got his hands on the wheel and he's just F, 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 and we're sliding all over the road. And he ends up flipping the vehicle upside down.
wow.
And I mean, he was clipping. He was probably doing 90, 95 miles an hour, like
Wow.
going way too fast. And ended up, it was like a Cherokee that I had, a Jeep Cherokee. And, I just remember bouncing around, like really not what was going on, because I just woke up. And the next thing you know, boom, it's like I was shot out of this tunnel and it's light, but I'm rolling around and I stop and I get up and I stand up and I realize I'm in the middle of the highway.
Mm-hmm.
Cars are stopped all around me because I've been like skipping through, like down the highway. I went up the back of the truck.
So I'm guessing there was no seat belts, which saved you.
I didn't. Well, here's the thing is I didn't have a seatbelt on because I'd reclined my seat back, right? So the seatbelt would have been like way up here.
Mm-hmm.
So I just took it off. I think it was just like, it was, that one was wild. Oh, so then Geza's still in the vehicle, still holding onto the steering wheel, upside down.
Oh,
And I see him, he unhooks his seatbelt, falls down, crawls out of the truck, looks around. He's freaking out. He's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, are you okay? He's like, yeah. I'm like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, yeah. And we're both like talking over each other. And I was like, man, it's unbelievable that we got in this accident. All three of us are okay. And then we looked at each other like, oh, Dave.
yeah.
And we're screaming. Dave had actually gone over the guardrail and down the hill and was lying in a ditch.
Wow.
And he told us later he could hear us talking the whole time. He's like, hey, that's so funny. I'm just lying here dying. We all ended up being okay. So that was a pretty scary moment. That was, that's one of those things when people talk about the dangers of the road, like it was. And that's why I say to this day, like, I don't care how fresh the driver thinks he is. one other person in the vehicle should be awake, and we didn't follow that rule, and the three of us are lucky to be alive after that.
Thank God nobody got any major injuries from that accident. That
Yeah, and
was
it's wild because if you saw the Jeep, it's a mess. Like it was mangled.
yeah.
So it was just crazy.
Canada. How did you get your big break, big chance to go to TNA and work with Jeff Jarrett?
I mean, really, I mean, I had my career. I started wrestling in '92 when I was still in high school. '93, I did the WWF, WCW stuff. Continued to do WCW stuff, which was great because it was good money for a kid, right? Like making a few $100 a day, US, great money, and then I'm going and wrestling in all the indies. In 1995, I got a chance to go to Germany for I think it was 6 weeks, and over there you wrestled 6 nights a week, and you wrestled in the same building
6 nights.
6 nights a week,
Wow.
and but in the same building. Like you go to a city, they set everything up, and then you wrestle in that building, and it's like they track wins and losses. It's almost like a tournament. It is a tournament, and wrestling in the same building in front of the same fans 6 nights a week for weeks. Like you got to start learning how to because you can't just do the
Yeah,
same
you need to
the
have.
same spots and same moves over and over again. And I mean, I was so young at the time. I think I was just barely 21, and I'm living in the red light district in Hamburg, Germany, and wrestling 6 nights a week, and that was a great experience. And in '96. I got an opportunity to go to Japan for the first time. That was amazing. It was like the first time where I felt like, wow, like I'm a rock star. Like they picked me up at the airport. Here's one guy to carry my bags. The other guy's my driver. I'm like, oh, okay, this is what it needs to be like all the time. And it's not, right? So that was a great experience getting to wrestle in Cork and Hall for the first time. And then later in the year, I went to England and did like the holiday camps, which is kind of like a rite of passage for British and European wrestlers. Where holiday camps, when I try to explain it to Americans and Canadians, is there's a famous movie with Patrick Swayze, Dirty Dancing, and it's like the holiday camps are where families go away, on vacation to a resort, and it's like cabins and there's different activities and everything, and it's just like a family vacation. Like they don't do a lot of it in the US anymore like it used to be, but in Britain it's still ongoing. But these holiday camps, there's all these different forms of entertainment, and one of the traveling forms, you just go from camp to camp, is these little pro wrestling shows, and you set up the rings. The wrestlers set up the ring, then you'll wrestle, and we wrestled 2 matches on every show. So set up the ring. It's like, like I'd wrestle you in the first match, and Reversal will wrestle, Psycho Mike in the second match. And then we'll get involved and run in that. And then we'll do a tag team match or something like that, right? Just giving them a little 45-minute, to an hour show. Then we tear the ring down, we take it to the next town, and you do 2 of those a day. Wow. So we would do 2 shows a day, 5 days a week. So,
That's a lot on your body. It's hard to recover.
That's 20 matches a week. In a 5-day span, that's 20 matches.
And including
There's
setting...
two per show, 2 shows a day. That's 4 matches a day for 5 days. Like it's
Wow.
So that really taught me you can't just like take bumps, and you can't like beat the hell out of each other all the time. Like you have to pick and choose your spots, and you have to learn how to be an entertainer. Right. And I was there with Johnny Swinger, who's a longtime friend, and you've been around him, a fun guy. So we went out there and just tried to do our damnedest to entertain and not take a bunch of crazy bumps, because even just lacing your boots, to do 4 matches a day is a lot.
Yeah.
So, but it was a great experience. I'm glad I did it. And it was it was those type of things, right? It was Germany, it was Japan, it was WCW, it was all these different places I'd go. I just try to kind of learn stuff that I could hopefully. I always say I'm looking for tools to put in my toolbox. As a coach, the expression I learned: look, tools you can put in your toolbox. Maybe you don't need them every day, maybe you don't need them every match, but all these experiences, all this knowledge become things that you can draw on when you need them later in your career.
I know you don't like to give yourself credit, but we all know that you tear down the building put it back, reconstruct it, and give it a strong base and build the company. And it's called TNA now. I want to know when TNA came back, how did you feel? I saw the promo. Everybody was losing their mind. Everybody was so happy, but it was only you who know that you're gonna leave. You saw that coming, that you're gonna leave the company. How does that make you feel?
Well, I mean, look, it was a big thing to get it rebranded to TNA because when myself and Don Callis came in 2018, one of the first things I wanted to do was to make it TNA again because I never got the Impact Wrestling branding. I never think it worked. I think the history, a lot of the bad stigma of the TNA years was with the Impact branding. I wanted to go to TNA, but in fairness, they had went from TNA to Impact, maybe back, or no, they went from Impact to TNA, maybe back to Impact, then GFW, and back to Impact. So I was flat out told we're not rebranding, which was probably the right decision. And even I think so in the sense that if we would have just called it TNA in 2018, the company, as you alluded to, was not in good shape, right?
Right.
It had no goodwill with fans. The roster was, not spectacular. I don't think it was ready. So the work we put in 2018, 2019, just to try to keep the company alive, because that's 2018, 2019 is how do we keep this company alive? How do we get we used to say, how do we get the heart beating again? Like, what's our spark? I think we got a little bit of that going, and then COVID hits. So then it just became, how do we get the shows out? Because, everybody stopped producing content in the world for the most part, like entertainment wise, except for WWE, AEW, and us. So it's two billionaires and us trying to still put out content. And, we managed to do it and got the content out. And that's when Kenny Omega came in, which certainly helped with the TV ratings and the pay-per-view buys and things like that. But, sometimes I wonder, boy, what type of houses could we have drawn at the events and we're having Kenny on them as a star, right? Like how many tickets could we have sold? And we never got that chance. So we came out of COVID in 2021 and it felt like we had made a lot of progress. At least people didn't crap on Impact all the time, but we still we were a definite we're number 3, maybe 4 or 5, depending on what you look at with New Japan and Ring of Honor. And we needed to, try to get ourselves going. So really, as we did that, it was late 21 when we left the studio and started traveling again, and kind of realized going into 2022, we're hustling, the product's decent, we're missing a couple things, but we're incrementally getting a little better and a little better. We've repaired the relationship with New Japan. We've done some stuff with AEW. Have the strong relationship with AAA at the time. And it was like coming out of 2022, and it just felt like we were stable, but we weren't really like where we wanted to be. And we started talking about how we're going to make that happen. And that's when, in the boardroom, I wrote right on the board, TNA.
Wow.
And I came up with the idea on the subway. Look, it's not but it's like we just got to go back to our roots. Lou D'Angeli was with me because we were on the way into the corporate office, the Anthem Sports office, and they're expecting us to give our pitch on what we need to do to elevate the company. So went in there and do the pitch, and we had all the reasons why we need to do it. And people in the room kind of go, okay, well, there's one problem. Like, we have a direct order, like it's been decreed from the very top. It cannot be TNA wrestling.
Oh,
I was like, well, then that's a problem. So we get led into the room, and he's like, no. And it's like, and as we talk about it more, he kind of softens up, but he leaves the room because he's always in and out. Then he comes back in like the next day, and he's just kind of like, so where are we with this branding back to TNA? I just kind of looked around the room. I was like, wait, I think he just walked out of here yesterday saying like no effing chance.
Yeah.
So I think we've got a crack in the armor now.
Yeah.
So we started planning it. It was actually originally supposed to be the TNA branding debut was supposed to be at Slammiversary 2023, which was the one in Windsor. And we had it all planned out for that to do it then. And then, I'm going to say 6 weeks beforehand, we kind of start talking about it. We're like, well, we have a real problem here. Like, because we find out the company is going to stop running shows after Hard to Kill, or sorry, after Bound for Glory that October. And it's like, well, we can't like, hey, here's TNA, it's back. And then a couple months later say, okay, we're going on hiatus for 3 months.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
Right. So then, and we made the decision. It was myself, Lou D'Angeli, Ed Nordholm was still around. Even I think I was the president by then. He was always there as an advisor and a senior executive. Josh Matthews. Because we had everything. We were getting stuff printed because the idea is that you were going to see the pre-show, for Slammiversary, and everything was going to say Impact.
Right.
And then when the lights go down and when the video package was playing to start the pay-per-view, we're going to change the ring skirts. We're going to change the logos on the desk. And when we come out of that package and bust the lights up on the arena, everything's going to say TNA. And the video package was going to be similar to what we did at Bound for Glory, that return of TNA. And then we're just going to go right into the show and run it. So like, we can't do this. We have to pause it. So we pivoted back and then kind of went to, just kind of into let's get to Bound for Glory mode. We shot that awesome video package,
And you hold it for like 4 to 5 months, if I'm not wrong, right?
We end up in October announcing it at the end of Bound for Glory, right? The pay-per-view ends. Then we do that video package with the old box being carried out of the water.
Right.
And, the lightning flashes and everything. Like that's a tremendous video package that was spearheaded by Eric Tompkins, super talented producer at TNA. That's an awesome video package. That's where we all ended up in the ring there at the end of Bound for Glory. And then we just kind of had to figure out how do we, without having producing, right? Because they wanted to produce no television, just be totally dark. So, well, that doesn't make sense. So that's when we came up with ideas. We did that little UK tour. We did the joint show in Mexico with AAA. We did that farewell show in Toronto at Battle Arts just to finish off the year. And the idea was just to get to Hard to Kill, that first TNA show, and and really wow people's socks with that Hard to Kill show. That was from the Palms in Las Vegas, sexy, location, cool venue. And, we're going to go out there, we're going to hit on all cylinders. So that was the game plan. And I think we executed on it pretty awesomely. I just didn't expect 2 days before the show to get a call from Len and end up being told, yeah, like we're going to pull away the reins and put somebody else in charge.
Yeah, you and team did a great job representing and bringing the TNA back, and everybody worked hard to bring that branding back. But you saw that coming, that you're going to finish working with TNA soon, but you still work coming 2 shows with them, right?
Yeah, like Len told me 2 days before Hard to Kill. So like I knew, I kind of forced him to tell me because he was trying to like he said, hey, we'll talk after the shows. And I called him, I didn't get him. So I texted him and I said, I have a flight at 10:30 tonight. I'm not getting on that plane to go to Vegas and we don't talk. Because I could feel it. And then we got on the phone, we talked, and Len and I have always had a decent relationship. And he finally came out and said, yeah, like we're going to make changes and we're going to do this and that. And I was like, okay, so, I said, well, look, I'll go to Las Vegas. I'll get these shows done. They'll be great. I'll go to Orlando. I'll get those shows out. And then, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have done the Orlando shows. I probably should have just done the Vegas ones and called it a day. But I tried to, out of obligation, give them, because we did those Orlando shows. They now have 5 weeks or roughly to figure out what they do before they have to run an event again. So I went there. I did my duty. I'd been there for 7 years. I think I'd put in a lot of good work. A lot of other people put in good work. I didn't stick around and do those last few events and work so hard on them for Len or for Anthem, although it's not like I have animosity. I did that for all the people that I worked with that I knew were working hard, that were trying to make it happen. Like I did that for everybody else like that, the talent, the crew.
Well, that's a true professionalism there, Still, you know that you're gonna go away and then you still stay there, work for your friends, for the wrestlers, for the company. That's a true professionalism. Scott, you brought Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling back into life. That's a huge project. You did it before, and that was your second time doing that. What kind of challenges you had to face?
I mean, like with Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, it was just it was like getting out there, and I look at it and it's like we would always joke at Anthem, at TNA, at Impact, whatever. We have a small shop, like we're not a huge company like AEW or WWE. But then really, when you start from scratch, it's almost like, well, hey, why haven't we done this? Oh, because we don't have anybody who's assigned to do that, right? There's so few people working on the project, and that's where like so much of it falls on such a small group of people, like my EA Karen, who Karen Hutt,
Right.
probably worked far too many nights, like well into, like past midnight and stuff, like getting things done and organized to get us there. It's just, and then we assembled a great team. And like, I mean, I look at it, we have like a murderer's row, like a 27 Yankees of all-star talent, when you've got Kevin Sullivan handling videos and branding and the overall look of the show, Keith Mitchell, who's probably the most legendary producer of professional wrestling ever, Tim Walbert, who is, arguably, one of the best directors in history when it comes to pro wrestling, and has spent decades in the sport. And, Don Callis, being able to come in, we go back a long way, and being the commentator, but also lending his mind to things. And it's just, you look at this group of people and you're like,
Right.
we have some of the most successful people in wrestling history. So having them around makes up a lot for not having the bodies, because the bodies we had are just so amazingly talented and experienced. But it's daunting to start from, like, even like with Impact TNA, we weren't starting from nothing. There was teams in place. There's a post-production team in place. There's a production team in place. There's a marketing team in place.
Right.
We had to make changes. We had to adjust. We had to like make things better.
But the
there was
Maple Leaf,
something, nothing.
nothing.
Yeah. So it's just like, it was just a name. It was just a name. And, it starts with a name, and then it's a logo. You come up with the logo, and then you just go from there. And it's been a lot of work. There's days that I just want to look at myself and go, like, what is wrong with you for trying to do this?
Right.
But it's been rewarding, right? And it's something I've always said that one of the things that I wanted to do was make wrestling better for Canadians, because and look, anyone who's not an American in pro wrestling, and really in entertainment in general, has a problem, in the sense that a lot of the opportunities are in the US.
100%.
So if you moved halfway around the world to Canada to come here to have a chance to try to do what you dreamed of doing, right?
Right.
But even here, like, when you look there and you look across the water to Detroit,
So many
it's so
opportunities.
close, but like you can't legally go there and wrestle.
Right.
So then like one of the things I wanted to do was, and I mean, I remember Bret Hart when he first became like a mega star. That's when he wanted to start helping people, and he started working with people like Edge and Glenn Kolka and all these guys, and helping other Canadians get their opportunities. And I think over my years in TNA, certainly, I mean, sometimes you read on the internet, I brought in way too many Canadians. But I mean, I always tried to think, if they're good enough to be there, they deserve to be there. Like, I think it's wrong if you choose, a Canadian over anybody else just because they're Canadian, just like it's wrong if you choose, a man over a woman, just because he's a man, right?
Right.
But get qualified, good, talented people there. But what I wanted to do was, more create a system for Canadian talent, non-US talent, to have a platform to perform on that people pay attention to. Because you go out there and you have a great match in Sarnia, and who's seeing it?
Right.
So the idea with Maple Leaf Pro is the platform should grow and be big enough that like not just the fans, but the people in the industry pay attention to it. And it's a place where they can go, oh, did you see that guy on the MLP show the other night, or did you see that woman on the MLP show the other night? And then we also want to, as we get going and we look at, setting up a new training system and everything else, like want to kind of have a system that not just the shows, but overall tries to help, mainly Canadian, but non-US talent develop outside of the US to be ready to have those opportunities in the US. So that's kind of our goal, right? Because I find still a lot of wrestling schools teach wrestling, but it's like, it's not just, as you know, it's not just the moves.
Right.
It's the moves, it's the look, it's the how to conduct yourself professionally, it's how to market yourself, it's how to build your brand. And I think if you're going to help wrestlers succeed, you're not putting the tools in the toolbox that they need if you're just giving them wrestling moves and spots.
Right.
Then you're sending somebody out there, you're sending an individual out there with a bunch of tools, but not anywhere near all the tools they need in order to get the job done. So I think as we get settled here and get into 2026 and, hopefully continue to expand and grow and, get bigger distribution, one of the things we want to do is build like a funnel, like a development funnel, like not necessarily like everybody has to move to Windsor and train here in Windsor or whatever but a system, and that's why we announced the partner with Battle Arts, and we're going to do some other things like that. But kind of a focused system where we can ID talented Canadians and say this person needs a little bit of guidance. Anything we can do to help them. They still do their own thing, but we can be part of the process. We can be part of their development. We can be we can provide some of the tools for their toolbox in order to grow and have an opportunity to succeed.
Whatever you said, like I can personally relate to that because we were talking like I moved here, left my family for pro wrestling, and now I can't cross the border because I need the visa. We talk about that. But Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling is an opportunity and ray of hope where I was like, oh, now I can get ready for something big. Now I can get ready for MLP. And now it's a big opportunity for me to showcase my talent. And this is the place for not just for me, but for many other talent, many other wrestlers who are not even from Canada, who can move here and boom, they can have a big platform here. And Scott, I saw we did actually a big show in October, the first show, it's a huge success. But the Toronto one was super successful, Maple Leaf Gardens. And I was watching you giving the speech, and you were talking that it was your dream. You used to watch people in wrestle there, and finally that happened. Like your own company, Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, was in Maple Leaf Gardens. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, I think it's an amazing thing, and it's an unbelievable accomplishment for such a young company. And personally, it's rewarding. I grew up every Saturday, watching wrestling. I watched Maple Leaf Wrestling every Saturday, and while like Detroit is where I went to watch live wrestling, like the Joe Louis Arena mainly. I always dreamed of going to watch wrestling in Maple Leaf Gardens. I would go. I've been to Leafs games there. I unfortunately never saw wrestling, but it was like it's one of those places. It's like it's the aura around it. It's like Madison Square Gardens. It's like Sumo Arena in Japan. It just has this aura to it that it's special, and being able to run an event there, even though Maple Leaf Gardens, as we see, is redeveloped. It's not a 16,000 seat arena. It's a 3,000 seat arena, but it's still like that. Like when I first pulled up the first time to do the walkthrough and I got out of the Uber and I was texting and I looked up and I just saw like the yellow brick and then like the marquee up, it's just, I was kind of like, wow, that's crazy. And then going up the escalators and you see the interior wall and then you walk into the arena and you're like, that is the same ceiling that I saw when I was 12 years old and I came to see the Leafs play the Jets. Like this is wild. And it was a homecoming, right? Because the original Maple Leaf Wrestling, that was their home. That's where all their biggest events happened for the most part. And to bring it back there, to bring it to the city of Toronto, to go into a city like Toronto, like a real like mega city, and be able to draw a crowd like that, to fill an arena, it was a truly special moment.
That was crazy. Like I heard a lot of stuff about Maple Leaf Gardens, and that was my first time I was there, and I was so amazed to see the whole building, the feeling, the vibe over there. That was crazy. Scott, you are in a position where you have to make a lot of decisions. It's all about decisions and leadership. Have you made any wrong decision in your life where you regret and you feel like things can be, the things could be different if you made that decision differently?
Well, sure. I mean, like, I certainly don't get 100% of the decisions right. And sometimes I tell people when people say, man, like, you always seem like you're running around, like working so hard and have so many things. And I go, well, the problem is I spend half my day, doing my job, and then the other half of the day fixing the mistakes that I make. So no, I mean, we all make mistakes, and I certainly have my share of mine. And I've sat there, the amount of times I've sat there and watched something that we've created and put together, and then I just went, it's not exactly what we were thinking. And you go, damn it. Or sometimes, because the process, right? And there's lots of voices and people are contributing, and you're like, whew, I don't know. Like, and then you're like, yep, you decide on something, and then you see something and you go, you know what, so and so is right. We should have done it the other way.
Yeah.
But that's I think that's any business. Certainly with something that involves like creativity and having to create, because everything starts with a blank board, right? Every episode of a television show starts with a blank board. Every card for a wrestling event somewhere starts with a blank board or a blank page. Then you go, okay, who can we get here? Well, I think Bishop Dyer, like Baron Corbin, people would like to see him. So you put his name on the board. Then you go, well, the Good Brothers are free, and while they drive me crazy sometimes, they're pretty big stars. So you put their name on the board, and then you just start. Then you go, okay, now I've got names on the board. Now what are we going to do with these people? And you have to create. So there's always going to be mistakes and things, and you're not gonna get it right. If you're gonna swing for the fences, you're gonna strike out sometimes, and that's whether it's wrestling, whether it's any job, whether it's life. Dutch Mantel, who I worked with a lot in the original TNA, is very well respected for his wrestling knowledge. I think is under respected for his general life perspective, because back when I first gained a decent amount of power in TNA in like 2005 and was overseeing the creative, like, I felt we had to get every decision perfectly. Everything had to be right. Like, no, that's not. And I felt so strongly about every little possible detail. And Dutch sat there and he goes, hey, he goes, can I talk to you honestly? And I go, well, of course. He goes, man, I really enjoy, working together, and I think we have a good rapport. He goes, and I love how dedicated you are to like, get everything right. He goes, I just want you to consider something. Just consider it. Just think about it. Don't even got to give me an answer. He goes, but just think on this. Maybe you're right on something, and and we do it your way, and it's great. He goes, maybe I'm right. He goes, we don't know until we do it. He goes, but there's one thing that I can guarantee you, absolutely guarantee you, is a fact. And I go, okay. He goes, if we mess it up this week and we do the wrong thing, we have 51 other weeks this year to work to fix it. And it's kind of a cool perspective. And you go, like, hey, you don't want to make mistakes, but knowing you're going to make mistakes, if something didn't go right this week, then address it next week and make it better and get it back on track. And that's one of the biggest lessons I learned from working with Dutch was, try to make it as good as you can. Always strive for perfection, but know you're not going to get there. And then know whatever didn't go right, you get another chance to do it next week.
Scott, from decision making, I want to ask you, like, do you have any advice for the youngsters who are pro wrestlers and who watching us? Like, what should they do to be a successful professional wrestler?
It's such a crapshoot. And I mean, I think, first of all, I tell people all the time when I would do seminars and when people ask me stuff, like, if you don't love this, if you don't truly love this, don't do it. If you don't feel that you have to do this, like you have a burning don't do it. There's way easier ways to earn a good living than what we do. There's opportunities that Don't beat the crap out of your body the way ours do. Don't monopolize your life sometimes time-wise and commitment-wise that this business does. And, and just you can get, and are going to last longer than a pro wrestling career, right? Like your engineering degree and career is gonna ride you off into the sunset when you retire at 62 or 65 or 67 or whatever, right?
Right.
You're probably not wrestling at 62. Some people are, but most aren't. So I mean, I think it's got to be something. It's got to be a passion, and then throw yourself into that passion. And a football coach of mine who I had a lot of respect for. One of the lines he told me when I first was playing for him was, "Make mistakes at 100%." And I was like, I sat there and I kind of like looked, and I'm like, mistakes at 100%, like what make? And then as he talked a little more, make mistakes at 100% was our slogan for, don't just stand by and do nothing. Like if you're gonna make a mistake trying to make something happen. Make a mistake by running over there and trying to make the greatest play ever. And then if you don't, get up, dust yourself off, and run down and go do it on the next play. So I think that you got to tackle it. You can't do this half-heartedly. And then the flip side of that is you have to know that a lot of people that want to be pro wrestlers don't end up making their career doing this. So it's important to go to school, to graduate, or to have some type of backup plan, right? Like, like Edge and I, when we first met, we were both young. We were both in college, both wrestling already. But we took two very different approaches. He, because he had promised his dear mother that he was going to graduate, he focused on graduating and wrestled around as graduating. My approach is more so, I'll go to school when it doesn't interfere with my wrestling. And we both ended up finding various levels of success. Obviously, like he might be a little more successful than me. But I mean, we both succeeded and like made it. The difference I always say is we both are success stories. But if Edge, like back when he broke his neck the first time and had to have surgery, if he never could have wrestled again, he wasn't set for life. But he had a university degree to fall back on. If when I got hurt, and I did at 28 years old, if it didn't end up working out for me, if I wasn't given that opportunity from Jeff Jarrett to transition behind the scenes and be a part of TNA, like what would I have done? I would have came back and got a job on a construction site or something. But like, I didn't have a fallback. Like I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't finish my schooling. Like I didn't finish my degree. Like at that, I was like, I left myself vulnerable. So I tell people all the time.
So don't follow Scott's footsteps.
No, don't. Like there's no reason why I didn't get my degree. If I was disciplined and focused, so like I always stress to athletes that I work with, like have a fallback plan. It doesn't have to be a university degree. Like if you learn a trade, if like in this world right now, a block layer, as we used to say, or a bricklayer, can make an unbelievable living, can either work for somebody else or can start up their own business and work for themselves and make a fantastic living and provide and make a ton of money. Whatever it is, have a fallback. Like don't put all your eggs in this basket. Put all your focus and as much effort as you can into this, but there has to be a plan B to it.
Yeah, needs to be mentally strong before coming into professional wrestling. It was same with me. Like when I moved here, my parents are like, "You're going there to study, so finish your study first, and then do whatever you want to do." So first year of my wrestling training, I didn't even told them that I'm training. But you help a lot of people, and I'm one of them. I want to know your side of story. When I moved here first, and you asked me, which part of the city do you live? And I was like, I don't know. I only can see bridge and McDonald's.
Yeah. Well, I'm at that point, things are about as bad as they could be at TNA Impact, right?
Right.
And I walk into a friend of mine's office and he's like, "How's things going?" I was like, "Oh, we're screwed." And he goes, "What?" I go, "Well, this wrestling thing I'm working on, like our TV deal in India is on Sony." And they just basically wrote us a letter. I go, "Apparently we have an obligation to have at least one Indian talent on our roster. and we let the only Indian we had on the roster go like last year before I was in charge, and now they've written us a letter saying like we're not going to pay you because you violated our contract. And we, long story short, we started like, hey, here's Gamma Singh, here's Rohit Raju, and they kept saying no. We said, here's Sanjay Dutt. Nope, it didn't meet the qualifications they wanted for. And I go, so basically at this point, I have 72 hours to find an Indian national, born and raised, trained professional wrestler. Because how you can do that? I go, there's zero effing chance of that happening. And while I'm in his office, I get a message from, and maybe now that they're partners, I probably won't get heat for it, but I get a message from Hornet.
Okay, yeah.
And, like Dara Schwarma, who's referee in NXT, right? And
Yep.
it's like, hey, I got this guy who I trained over at Colley's. He's moved to Canada and he's going to be in Windsor. He's, he wants to be a wrestler. He's a really good kid. So now I always tune up my buddy. I'm like, okay, like what's going on, Hornet? Who is this kid? Like, and he gives me your profile. And I look and see like Windsor, Ontario, St. Clair College. So that's when I message you, right? On Facebook Messenger.
I was so new that I was replying your messages. I had no clue when I moved here first. And I was super new. It was just the first week of my, in Windsor actually. And then I was like replying and I was like, what should I reply? What should I say? I should say yes or no.
That's why I kept being those 3 dots.
3 dots.
And I'm looking at my phone. Oh, he's texting me back. Oh, wait, he stopped. Oh, wait, he's responding. Oh, what? And I'm like, this goes on for quite a while. Then I message Hornet and go, and I sent a picture of the 3 dots. I go, what is this kid doing?
I was thinking what to do, what not to do, because as I said, I had no clue where I was living at the time, like in which part of the city was so new. Yeah. But we met, and
well, that's what I said. Like, well, what part of the city are you in? I don't know. You don't know what he goes, well, I'm by the campus. I'm like, what campus? And you're not even by the St. Clair campus. You're by the University of Windsor campus.
Yep.
And I'm like, go to your window. Like, what can you see near you? I see a bridge and a McDonald's sign. Great. Walk towards that. I'll meet you there.
That was a great story because at my mind, I was like, I don't know who wants me to be in a pro wrestling because I was trying hard. Like I was into like 8-9 years into doing kickboxing, boxing, and then bodybuilding. And then I was like, I'm not getting anything back. So I moved here. So I was like, oh, I'm going to go super focused on my studies. And when my studies are done, then I'm going to start professional wrestling. But then I go to your text. We had a chat and then we, and
then you signed your contract the next day.
Yeah. But hey,
when you left the McDonald's that first night, I followed you home, right?
No, I have no clue.
No?
No clue.
I followed you home because if you didn't show up at the McDonald's the next day, I was showing up at your door.
You know where I'm living.
But it's seriously like it's one of those stories that probably one day if TNA, succeeds and continues to grow, that story has to be told. Like literally, if Sony stops paying us, like that company's out of business. Know, and then the fact that you just moved to Windsor and it's like, oh, so you signed a wrestling contract like day 3 or 4 that you were
when
here.
I moved here. But hey, I was trying hard. I was working hard. I was a national level gold medalist. And it's, I always say, it's when hard work meets the opportunities, that's called luck. So, and I knew like this contract is big for me. So I was like, I'm going to give my 100%. And remember, during the training days, you came out of your office and you were like, Bhupinder, you don't look like you used to be. And I was like, oh, that broke my heart. And then I was like, I'm going to gym now. I'm going to sleep less. I'm going to finish my school. But at the same time, I need to look good. Scott, I want to ask you, now professional wrestling is growing in India, but still very few who are successful in professional wrestling. What do you think? What's the reason? Is it the opportunities, talent, mix of both?
I mean, we know there's great Indian athletes. So I think it's just a matter of providing those opportunities. Like, I mean, I think it's just got to be a matter of like, there's not a major wrestling scene in India right now, right? There's a massive popularity there, right? Like, I think it's the second most popular sport.
Yep.
But I mean, like where is if you're Indian over there in India, where do you go? How do you get into wrestling? And then if you do go train, then once you walk out of your training, what shows do you get on? How much opportunity do you have? Because you need to get into the ring and you need to get in the ring and train,
Mm-hmm.
but you also need to get in the ring on shows. And I mean, like I certainly don't have my finger totally on the pulse, but it doesn't seem like there's the opportunities there for an Indian talent to get in the ring on shows in front of crowd, to work in front of people, and then to go back into the, to the dojo or the wrestling school or the gym or whatever, and work with their coaches on how to improve.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things, if you look at it historically with sport, one of the things is like and I mean this with no disrespect to anybody's in the game, but I think there's probably a lack of quality wrestling coaches in
Right.
India right now.
That's true.
So, because you can do something over and over and over again and work really hard and try to improve,
Mm-hmm.
but if there's nobody to help correct you and guide you to do it properly, well then, like what's the saying? Like it's not practice makes perfect. It's perfect practice makes perfect.
100%.
So you have to be doing it right when you get those reps. So I think part of it needs to be having the coaching and that development system in place to give the athletes that opportunity to succeed. And I don't know if that happens truly for that region, if it happens there in India, until somebody goes there and says, okay, like makes it a focal point of saying, we're going to develop, the Indian professional wrestling scene and Indian professional wrestlers.
Yeah, you said that's 100% true. I also believe who living in Canada, people like me, I know a couple of other people who are trying hard. I think it's about the stereotype too. If people can break the stereotype, because when I started first, people wanted to go me as a heel or
Right.
as play the Indian gimmick, but I was actually getting ready when you signed me first. I was getting ready because we never had a conversation like which you want me to do as a baby or heel. I was so scared to kind of talk to you, ask you actually. So I was getting ready, and you told me that you want me to go as a babyface on the show day, and I was like, oh, this is super new to me. But I try to do my best, and every opportunity you gave me, I'm grateful for that, and I think I try to do my best at the time. And right now, every professional wrestling in India is growing. People are getting more educated. They are kind of know what professional wrestling is. So I want to ask you, there are still some people who says professional wrestling is fake, and you are the perfect person to ask you, how can you explain who do not understand wrestling and they say wrestling is fake?
I mean, you can't, because you can't fix stupid. I mean, I don't think there's anybody in wrestling right now who's out there trying to like argue with people that this is a real fight. That's not what we're saying. We are a form of entertainment. Is it very athletic? Absolutely. Is it very dangerous? Absolutely. Does it take wear and tear on your body? Absolutely. Are you in the ring trying to win a competition or a fight with your opponent? No. So I mean, like to me, it's just an ignorance level. It's like, okay, when you go to the movie and you watch the Fantastic Four movie, oh, that's not real. He really didn't do that. Like, oh yeah, no, he didn't. And when you turn on a TV show or whatever, that's not real either, right? Like it's a form of entertainment, and you don't have to, like, to me, anytime somebody makes that comment, it's like it just lets me know how ignorant that human being is. It's just like that's ridiculous. Like you wouldn't walk up to George Clooney and be like yeah, like I saw Ocean's 11. You guys really didn't rob a casino. Like it's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
So like I don't pay a lot of attention to that at this point in time with things, right? Like I mean, you're not going to earn their respect. I mean, they're not going to walk away and go, oh, you're right. I see exactly what you say. So it's funny. Like I remember. Years ago, I had an old timer, and he'd say, "What I'll do is I'll just agree with him." And I'm like, "What?" And I watched him do it. Someone goes, "Hey, that's all fake, right?" And he goes, "Yeah, 100%." And the guy's like almost taking it back. He goes, "Really?" He goes, "Yep." He goes, "We never touch each other." He goes, "It's great." He goes, "Nobody ever gets hurt." He goes, the mat's like a trampoline. He goes, "You don't feel that's like landing." He goes, "Well, I heard it hurts sometimes, though." He goes, "No, never." And he goes, well, don't people get hurt? He goes, no. When you hear that, that's it. We're just making that up to take time off. No one's ever been hurt in pro wrestling. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I've never even once been like, oh, geez, that kind of stung. And the guy goes, well, I don't know. I saw something where like the one guy died. He goes, oh no, he's living in Alaska. He's wonderful. And the person was like, no, I think people really do get hurt. And he's like, nope, because you're just falling for it. He goes, we just got you conned. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. He just turned it around on the guy.
That's a great way actually to tackle the people who say wrestling is fake.
You know, I do want to go back. You said something about when you started and how you didn't know if you'd be a baby face or heel. And I think this ties into two things. One, kind of we're talking about opportunities, and you're saying, I think one of the things you're kind of alluding to is getting pigeonholed, right? Because, you know, Indian wrestlers, brown wrestlers, oh, they're evil, right? Like, because like it's an old stereotype, right? And they're different. And I think we have to get past that. And I think we've talked about it. And that's one of the things, like, I think we got it right in the sense that, like, hey, we don't want Bhupinder to be a heel, right? Like there's no reason why, like, a wrestler, whether they're good or bad, shouldn't be determined by how much pigment there is in their skin. You know, what we didn't get right, and I think you nicely, you know, helped us correct is, you know, you're kind of like, the way you want me to dress isn't really how people like. You're like, I want to kind of like dress more like cool, like Bollywood. Like I want to be like you know like
fancy jacket.
Yeah, like you kind of got me dressing like it's, you know, like 1950.
Right. We don't wear that.
And you're doing it, but you don't want to, right? But in our brains, because we don't know, it's like we're trying to be. And that's a mistake of trying, like, we want to make sure, we want to honor the culture. We want to make sure, because we want to be conscious of the fact that India is a huge population. And I always say, like, one of the things that makes wrestling great is anybody who turns on the TV screen or goes to a wrestling show, somewhere on the show should see somebody that they go, oh, I relate to that. Like, that person reminds me of me, right? Like, I see myself in that person, right? And that's what's cool. That's why I think maybe for historically for people of color and from other ethnic backgrounds, it probably kind of sucks that, you know, the people that look like you are always being portrayed as evil, horrible people, right? That's not the way to get new fans, but people need to have someone they connect to. That's like, for me, I could look at Hulk Hogan and say, wow, Hulk Hogan's a big star. Oh, he's super strong and powerful. I never can say, hey, I can be like Hulk Hogan. To me, it was Dusty Rhodes. When I saw Dusty Rhodes, like, my belly's a little too big, you know, my hand is a little too big. Like, I can see Dusty in myself, right? He looks enough like me, like that. Like, I can be that guy. And you need to see that. We were trying to do that, but we missed it. Because we just don't know. So that it takes someone like you, like, hey, like it'd be a little cooler. Like, I think people like, well, what are we going to say? No, Bhupinder, that's not what Indians want to see, right? Like, you live there, you grow up there, you still spend time there. It's like, okay, well, we probably have to give this a chance, right? Like, let's pivot and do it right. So I think that's where wrestling works, right? When it's like, hey, we've got an idea, let's do this. And then other people contribute. And it's like, okay, we can make this better and better.
Right. And because now I believe like people getting like more Western touch, and they admire West more, so they want to see something, you know, wearing a flashy jacket like a Bollywood, Hollywood style. But the chance I got, I try to do my best, believe me.
No, look, you were thrown to the wolves too with not a lot of experience. You know, and look, I mean, I think we can learn a lot from Bollywood, because I used to watch it every Sunday. Right. It actually used to come on after wrestling. So I would watch these damn movies, and I'll tell you what, I'm sure you know this, even though you can watch an entire Bollywood movie and you kind of know what's going on, even if you don't speak, like, and I don't know if they were speaking Hindi or Punjabi or some other dialect. Wouldn't know the difference, right? The only thing I know is TK. So, but I would watch these things, and I was just blown away as a kid just by right, the pageantry and the colors, and, you know, the big dance numbers and everything else, right? It's like, this is like pretty wild to see. I'd be fascinated by like the showbiz of it, almost like pro wrestling. So I think we could learn and take stuff from that. Like, I remember years ago, the first time we sent wrestlers to India, one of them was Sanjay Dutt the wrestler.
Right.
And when Sanjay Dutt the wrestler gets over there, he gets a phone call at his hotel, and it's the actor Sanjay Dutt.
Oh, wow.
Saying like, hey, I just heard you're here. Like, man, I can't make it there. If I would have known, you know, but next time, like, let's meet up.
I love Sanjay Dutt. And
the actor?
Both.
Yeah.
Both. I love both, but I wish I can meet. I met Sanjay wrestler.
Yeah.
But I really want to meet Sanjay Dutt, the actor.
Yeah.
That's my one of.
And Sanjay Dutt, the wrestler, was when he first got the phone call, he thought the actor was going to be like, who do you think you are using my name? But
Right.
he thought it was super cool. He's like, man, when I found out there's a wrestler, Sanjay Dutt,
He's a great
he goes,
guy.
I thought it was so awesome. He goes, then I saw you and like, you're awesome.
He's
So
a
like,
great
that's,
guy.
yeah.
Scott, before I let you go, I want to ask you, we have a big show coming up September 5th and Oshwanken, Ontario, right? Correct me if my pronunciation is not right.
I'm not going to be able to correct you. So it's on the Six Nations territory.
Okay. What we can expect from that show, because we had 3 big successful show, and now what to expect from that show?
I think you can expect the same thing. You can expect a lot of great name wrestlers from around the world. You know, the Good Brothers are there, Shotzi Blackheart, you know, PCO. You're going to see a mix of great, amazing, like scientific or like style wrestling. You're going to see some brawling. You're going to see some cool entrances. You know, I think it'll be cool, and I think it's kind of neat that we're on a like a native reserve there, right? Like the Six Nations territory, which is the biggest native territory in the country, Canada, I believe, and to be part of their annual festival, which is like a big deal for them, and for the Six Nations to say, hey, for one of our big nights, one of the things that I think we wanted to be professional wrestling, that's the mega event. So like the fairs, all around and everything else. It's a pretty big fair. It's pretty awesome. But then, then you can just make your way into the arena and watch wrestling. So I think it's cool that they're providing that for all the people on the Six Nations territory, and the fact that it's open to anybody. And I think it's a great opportunity for wrestling fans to, one, go out, check out the Six Nations territory, check out and support their festival, because this is a big deal for them, both culturally and also it's something that's a big part of generating and raising money. And the fact that you get the festival and the pro wrestling show for $10, like that's a crazy deal to
Exactly.
me. Like
that's nothing.
Yeah. So I mean, I think you'll see that mix of great name talent that you've seen on WWE and AEW and everything else, and TNA. You get a mix of a great Canadian talent, and I always we try to throw in something like in Toronto we had Michael Oku, who's one of the best young talents in the entire world. We had him in from the UK. In Montreal, we used like Zach Patterson and some guys. It's these are guys, because we're in Quebec. We should use some Quebecois talent. Like it's good to have PCO and Mike Bailey, but while we're there, let's highlight some of the great Quebecois talent. So I think you'll see a great mix of wrestling, both styles, and all the styles mixed together. You'll see a mix of that, and you'll see a mix of the best Canadians and the best talent from around the world together.
Sweet. I'll try to get some inside news for MLP. What's your vision, and do we have anything big coming up? Any big news coming up for Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling?
So what you're saying is what we're doing so far isn't big enough for you?
No, that's too big. but in the prospect of distributions.
Yeah, we're looking at a lot of things for 2026. We always kind of had 2026 as our goal to have something together as far as for hopefully some broader distribution, and that we're working on it. It's not easy. It's not easy, but we've got some great people. We've partnered with some great people in the industry. When I did that meeting in Toronto, I wasn't just blowing smoke when I said there's a lot of really influential people, a lot of very powerful people in the television industry and the streaming industry and other industries in the building that night watching the show. We're going to be in there. They showed up, they watched, and I think our product served people on notice and let people know this is a great product that's truly Canadian. And I think at a time when we see Canada under attack from some of the stuff, well, technically from a lot of it's north of us from where we sit, but for Canada South, we see the stuff coming out of the US and all the rhetoric and the tariffs and everything in the 51st state. I love that right now Canadians are really proud to be Canadian. Right. And I think a brand like Maple Leaf Pro is primed and ready to be in the center of that and be proudly Canadian. And I think with the right partners when it comes to sponsorships and distribution and all kinds of levels, like multi-layered, I think we're in a good spot to really take a shot at things as we head towards 2026.
Very well said. Scott, last question I want to ask you. At Dojo, we always have a debate going on, right? Who's your favorite student? So today you have to clear like who's your favorite student? Is it Sheldon? Is it Bhupinder Gujjar? Is it Giselle Shah? Is it Dan Rivers? Or is it any other in your mind?
I don't like any of you.
Okay. That's a great answer. Perfect.
No, honestly, I can't pick that. So y'all can argue among themselves. Just know that Sheldon's wrong.
Okay. Sheldon, you're wrong, brother. Sorry. But Scott, thank you so much for coming and sharing your experience and giving your time talking about, and it really means a lot to me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate it. Glad to be here, and good luck with the new podcast here. It's awesome.
Trying my best. ਸੋ ਗਾਇਜ਼ ਇਹ ਸੀਗੇ ਸਕੌਟ ਡੈਮੋਰ ਐਂਡ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਕੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਮਜ਼ਾ ਆਇਆ। ਕਿੰਨੀਆਂ ਸਟੋਰੀਆਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ। ਬਾਕੀ ਅਗਲੇ ਹਫਤੇ ਮਿਲਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਹੋਰ ਨਵੇਂ ਗੈਸਟ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ। ਉਦੋਂ ਤੱਕ ਆਪਦਾ ਧਿਆਨ ਰੱਖਿਓ ਐਂਡ ਆਪਣੇ ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ ਦੀ ਰਿਸਪੈਕਟ ਕਰੋ, ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਦੀ ਕੇਅਰ ਕਰੋ। ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਜੀ।